She was already in the ground. That was the part he couldn't move past. Not the letter in his hands. Not the words on it. Not the truth that was dismantling 23 years of certainty one sentence at a time. Just that. She was already in the ground. And there was nothing left to do with what he now knew. No conversation left to have. No door left to walk through. No version of I'm sorry that could reach her now. Just a man standing in his mother's room, with a letter she had written the night before they took him, the night before everything, reading words she had carried alone for 23 years. While he had spent those same 23 years hating her, he had been 9 years old when they came. 6 riders, moving through the gate in the gray light of early morning. No weapons drawn, no aggression. Just 6 men who already knew how this was going to end. Kael had been playing near the gate when he saw them, had watched his mother walk out to meet them. Calm, unhurried, the way Maren did everything. He had watched them talk. For a long time. Too long. Something exchanged. A document. Nods. And then one of the riders dismounted, walked toward Kael, put a hand on his shoulder, and told him he was coming with them. He had looked at his mother, across the space between them, waiting for her to stop it, waiting for the thing that mothers do when someone tries to take what is theirs. She looked at him, for a long moment that he would spend the rest of his life inside. Something in her face he couldn't read at 9 years old. Then she nodded, and looked away. That was the image he had carried for 23 years. His mother's face, turning away. Not fighting, not reaching for him, not crossing the distance between them, just turning away. That image had become the foundation of everything. Every wall he had ever built, every door he had kept closed, every morning he had sat across from her at the table and said nothing about the thing that sat between them like a body neither of them would name. He had built 23 years of his life on that image, on the certainty of what it meant. On the story he had told himself so many times it had stopped feeling like a story and started feeling like fact. His mother had given him away. She had looked at him and chosen. He had been wrong. He didn't know that yet. He was about to find out. In the worst possible way. In the only way that couldn't be undone. His name was Kael, son of Jarl Bram of the Ironwater clan. Born in the 3rd year of a long peace that nobody trusted. The kind of peace that sits between 2 powerful clans like a held breath. Everyone waiting, everyone knowing that eventually someone would exhale. His mother's name was Maren, a woman who had managed the settlement with the kind of quiet competence that gets noticed only when it stops. She ran the stores, managed the trade, kept the relationships between families from becoming conflicts, did all of it without announcement, without credit. The way women like Maren have always done the work that holds things together, while the men around them argue about honor. Kael had loved her completely until he was 9 years old, and then everything changed. The 6 riders arrived on a gray morning in early spring, from the Greywolf Clan, the clan his father had been in careful tension with for 3 years. They rode in without aggression, without weapons drawn, but with the specific energy of men who already knew the outcome of what they had come to do. They were met by Maren, not his father. Maren. Kael watched from a distance as his mother spoke to the riders for a long time. He couldn't hear the words, but he could see the faces. The Greywolf riders nodding, his mother nodding. Something exchanged, a document of some kind. Then one of the riders dismounted, walked to where Kael was standing, put a hand on his shoulder, and told him he was coming with them. He looked at his mother, across the distance between them, waiting for her to stop it, waiting for her to say no, waiting for the thing that mothers do when someone tries to take what is theirs. She looked at him, for a long moment, something in her face that he would spend 23 years trying to understand. Then she nodded, and looked away. He was taken to the Greywolf settlement that same day. Not as a prisoner, as a ward, a diplomatic hostage. The language of clans in careful tension. A guarantee proof that the Ironwater clan would hold to whatever agreement had just been made. He didn't understand any of that at 9 years old. What he understood was simpler. His mother had given him away. She had looked at him, and looked away, and let them take him. He lived with the Greywolf Clan for 7 years. He was not mistreated. That was important and also completely irrelevant to what the experience did to him. He was fed, housed, educated alongside the Greywolf children, treated with a cold politeness that never became warmth. Because he was not theirs. He was a guarantee, a symbol of someone else's promise. A boy whose presence in their settlement meant that the Ironwater clan would behave. He understood that. By the time he was 12, he understood it completely. And he understood who had put him there. He returned home at 16. 7 years of absence carried in his body like a second skeleton. His father embraced him at the gate. His mother stood back, waiting, her expression carrying something he didn't have a name for yet. He looked at her and said nothing, walked past her, into a settlement that felt like a stranger's house. He never spoke to her about it. Not directly, not the way it needed to be spoken about. They lived in the same settlement for years, sat at the same table, spoke about practical things, supplies, weather, planned business, and nothing else. The real conversation, the one that sat between them every time they were in the same room, was never had, because Kael didn't want an explanation. He had already decided he understood, and Maren never offered one. Before we go further, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments, and subscribe if you haven't yet. These stories only get deeper from here. His father died when Kael was 26. Kael took over the clan, led well, made his father's reputation look like a foundation rather than a ceiling. His mother remained in the settlement, quieter now, moving through her days with the specific economy of a woman who has stopped expecting anything from them. Kael watched her sometimes, from across the settlement, not with softness, with the complicated attention of someone who can't stop looking at something that caused them pain. She never asked for anything from him, never sought his company, never placed herself in a position where he would have to acknowledge what lived between them. She simply existed, within the settlement he led, on the edges of his life, present, and completely out of reach. She died in the 32nd year of Kael's life, quietly, in her sleep, the way people die when they have spent their energy completely and have nothing left that requires their continued presence. Kael was told in the morning. He sat with the news for a long time, not grieving exactly, not relieved, something more complicated. The specific feeling of a door closing before you decided whether you wanted to walk through it. He went to her room to begin the arrangements, the practical things that death requires. He worked methodically, the way he did everything, sorting, organizing, moving through the tasks without allowing the weight of them to slow him down. At the bottom of a carved wooden chest, beneath folded clothing and small personal items, he found a sealed document. Old, the seal worn with age, his name written on the outside. In her hand, he recognized her writing immediately, had seen it on 1,000 administrative documents across the years of growing up beside her. He held the document for a long time, then opened it. It was a letter, written the night before he had been taken, the night before that gray morning, before the Greywolf riders had arrived. She had written it knowing what the morning would bring. The letter explained everything, everything she had never told him, everything she had carried alone for 23 years. The Greywolf clan had not come to negotiate. They had come to collect. 3 years earlier, his father had made an agreement with the Greywolf Jarl. An agreement Maren had not known about. An agreement made in desperation during a moment when the clan's survival was genuinely in question. His father had promised the Greywolf clan a hostage, a child of the Ironwater leadership, as guarantee of peace. For 5 years minimum, his father had made the promise, and then had done nothing to fulfill it. For 3 years, while the Greywolf Clan waited, and grew less patient, and finally sent riders, not to negotiate, to collect what had been promised. His father had been away when the riders arrived, 3 days north on clan business. Unreachable, the riders had a document, signed, in his father's hand. The promise was real, the debt was real, and the riders had not come to leave without what they were owed. Maren had 2 options: send word to her husband and wait 3 days, while 6 armed riders sat in her settlement, growing impatient, in a situation that could collapse into violence at any moment, or fulfill the promise herself. Immediately, keep the peace, protect the settlement, give the Greywolf Clan what had been promised before anyone decided the promise wasn't worth keeping. She had 1 hour to decide. She chose, the way Maren had always made choices, quickly, completely, without asking anyone to share the weight of it. She sent a message to her husband. 3 words. I handled it. She signed the transfer document. She walked to where her son was playing near the gate. She looked at him across the distance, memorized his face, the way his hair fell, the way he stood, the specific quality of him at 9 years old that she knew she was about to lose for years. And then she nodded and looked away, because if she kept looking, she wouldn't be able to let them take him. And if she didn't let them take him, 6 armed men in her settlement would become a problem that ended in blood. She had protected him the only way available to her, by sending him away, by looking away, by letting him believe for 23 years that she had chosen to give him up, when the truth was something far more complicated. She had given him up to keep him alive, in a world where the alternative was a violence he would not have survived. The letter ended simply. I know what you believe about that morning. I never corrected it because I couldn't explain it without explaining your father's failure. And your father was a good man in most ways. I didn't want to take that from you too. If you are reading this, then I am gone. And I am sorry. Not for the choice. I would make it again. I am sorry that you carried something for 23 years that was never yours to carry. That weight belonged to me. I should have found a way to take it back. I didn't know how. I love you. I always loved you. Even on the mornings when you couldn't look at me. Especially then. Kael sat in his mother's room for a long time after that, with the letter in his hands, the fire burning low, the settlement outside going about its morning, completely unaware. He sat with 23 years of certainty, dismantling itself, 1 sentence at a time. 23 years of a story he had believed completely. A story about a mother who had looked at her son and looked away, who had chosen peace over him, who had given him to strangers without flinching. That story had been real to him, had shaped him, had built the walls he carried into every relationship, had been the foundation of a loneliness so familiar he had stopped recognizing it as loneliness. And now it was gone, replaced by something he didn't know how to hold. A mother who had looked at her son, memorized his face, and looked away, because looking away was the only way she could do what needed to be done. A woman who had spent 23 years carrying a weight alone, because she loved his father enough not to expose him, and loved her son enough to absorb his hatred rather than destroy his image of his father. A woman who had sat across from him at 1,000 meals, and said nothing, while he said nothing, both of them carrying the same mourning, in completely different versions. He went to her burial that afternoon, stood at the grave, in the cold, with the letter folded in his hand, and stood there long after everyone else had gone, because there was nowhere else to be, no conversation left to have, no explanation left to give, no version of I understand that could reach her now, just a man at a grave, with 23 years of the wrong story, and the right one. Too late. He led the clan for 30 more years after that. Well, consistently, the way good leaders lead. He never spoke publicly about what he had found in that letter. He protected his father's name, the way his mother had protected it. He understood now why she had. He also understood something else. That protection had a cost. That silence always has a cost, and that the people who love us most are sometimes the ones who pay it, without ever letting us know. Some things cannot be fixed after the fact. Some conversations can only happen while there is still time to have them. And the heaviest weight a person can carry is not hatred, not grief, not even regret. It is the understanding that arrives too late, that the person you spent years being angry at was the person who loved you most completely, in the most difficult way, without ever asking you to know it. What would you have done? If you were Maren, would you have told him the truth? And if you were Kael, standing at that grave with that letter, what would you have said to her? Tell us in the comments. New stories every week. Subscribe to Beneath the Surface Stories, because it's never just about the battle. It's about what happens beneath the surface.